This is the part 2 of the series, Labor of Hercules. We will look into the last 7 labors. If you want to know what happened before and about the first 5 labors, watch the previous video. Let's get started. The 6th labor was to defeat the Stymphalian birds, man-eating birds with beaks made out of bronze and sharp metallic feathers that could launch at their victims. They were sacred to Ares, the god of war. Furthermore, their dung was highly toxic. They had migrated to Lake Stymphalia, where they bred quickly and took over the countryside, destroying local crops, fruit trees, and townspeople. Hercules could not go too far into the swamp, for it would not support his weight. Athena, noticing the hero's plight, gave Hercules a rattle, which Hephaestus has made especially for the occasion. Hercules shook the rattle and frightened the birds into the air. Hercules then shot many of them with his arrows. The rest flew far away, never to return. In some other versions of the story, instead of the audience table being discounted, it was the Stymphalian birds' labor for getting the help of Athena. The 7th labor was categorized as the first of the non-Peloponnesian labors. It was to capture the Cretan bull, father of the Minotaur. According to Apollodorus, Heracles sailed to Crete, asked King Minos for help, but Minos told Hercules to capture the bull himself, which he did. After showing the bull to Eurystheus, Hercules released a bull which ended up at a marathon. As the 8th of his labors, Hercules was sent by King Eurystheus to steal the mares of Thrace from Diomedes. The mares' madness was attributed to their unnatural diet, which consisted of flesh of unsuspecting guests or strangers to the island. Some versions of the myth says that the mares also expelled fire when they breathed. In one version, Hercules brought a number of volunteers to help him to capture the giant horses. After overpowering Diomedes' men, Hercules broke the chain that tethered the horses and drove the mare down the sea. Unaware that the mares were man-eating and uncontrollable, Hercules left them in the charge of his favorite companion while he left to fight Diomedes. Upon his return, Hercules found that the boy was eaten. As a revenge, Hercules fed Diomedes to his own horses. In another version, Hercules, who was visiting the island, stayed awake so that he didn't have his throat cut by Diomedes in the night, and cut the chains binding the horses once everyone was asleep. Having scared the horses onto the high ground, Hercules quickly dug a trench through the peninsula, filling it with water and thus flooding the low-lying plain. When Diomedes and his men turned to flee, Hercules killed them with an axe or a club and fed Diomedes' body to the horses to calm them. In yet another version, Hercules first captured Diomedes and fed him to the mares before releasing them. Only after realizing that their king was dead did his men, the Bristonians, attack Heracles. Upon seeing the mares charging at them, led in a chariot, the Bristonians turned and fled. In all the versions, the horses are calmed by eating human flesh, giving Hercules the opportunity to bind their mouths shut and easily take them back to King Eurystheus, who dedicated the horses to Hera. In some versions, they were allowed to roam freely around Argos, having become permanently calm. But in others, Eurystheus ordered the horses to be taken to Olympus to be sacrificed to Zeus, but Zeus refused them and sent wolves, lions, and bears to kill them. As his 9th labor, Hercules traveled to the land of the Amazons to bring back the belt of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. According to Apollodorus, the belt was gifted to Hippolyta by her father Ares as an emblem of her position as queen. In his account, Eurystheus set Heracles the task because his daughter wanted to have the belt for herself. In earlier sources, however, the purpose of the labor was seemingly for Hercules to overcome the Amazons, with Eurystheus requiring the belt as evidence of his success. Accompanied by a group of companions, Hercules set sail for the land of Amazons, which was generally believed to be along the shore of the southern end of the Black Sea. Sources vary on who came with him. Hellenicus states that he was accompanied by all of the Argonauts, while Pindar mentions that Peleus came on the voyage. All would have gone well for Hercules had it not been for Hera. Hippolyta, impressed with Hercules and his exploits, agreed to give him the belt and would have done so had Hera not disguised herself and walked among the Amazons sowing seeds of distress. She claimed the strangers were plotting to carry off the queen of Amazons. Alarmed, the warrior woman set off on horsebacks to confront Hercules. When Hercules saw them, he thought Hippolyta had been plotting such treachery all along and had never meant to hand over the belt. So he killed her, took the belt and returned to Eurystheus. The 10th labor was to obtain the cattle of the three-bodied giant Geryon. In Apollodorus' account, Hercules had to go to the island of Eretria in the far west. On the way, he became so frustrated at the heat that he aimed an arrow to the sun. The sun god Helios, impressed by his audacity, gave Hercules the golden cup that Helios used to sail across the sea from west to east each night. Hercules took the cup and rowed it to Eretria. When Hercules landed at Eretria, he was confronted by the two-headed dog, Ortherus. With one blow from his olive wood club, Hercules killed Ortherus. On hearing the commotion, Geryon sprang into action, carrying 3 shields and 3 spears, and wearing 3 helmets. He attacked Hercules, but was slain by one of his poisoned arrows. It is said that Hercules shot so fiercely that the arrow pierced Geryon's forehead, and Geryon bent his neck over to one side, like a puppy that spoils its delicate shapes, shedding its petals all at once. Hercules then had to herd the cattle back to Eurystheus. In Roman versions of the narrative, Hercules drove the cattle over the Aventine Hill on the future side of Rome. The giant Cacus, who lived there, stole some of the cattle as Hercules slept, making the cattle walk backwards so that they left no trail. According to some versions, Hercules drove his remaining cattle past the cave where Cacus had hidden the stolen animals, and they began calling out to each other. In other versions, Cacus' sister told Hercules where he was. Hercules then killed Cacus and set up an altar on the spot. To annoy Hercules, Hera sent gadfly to bite the cattle, irritate them, and scatter them. Within a year, Hercules retrieved them. Hera then sent a flood, which raised the levels of the river so much that Hercules could not cross with the cattle. He piled stones into the river to make the water shallower. When he finally reached the court of Eurystheus, the cattle were sacrificed to Hera. After Hercules completed the first 10 labors, Eurystheus gave him 2 more, claiming that slaying the Hydra did not count, nor did the cleaning of the Augean stables. The first additional labor was to steal 3 of the golden apples from the garden of Hesperides. Hercules first caught the Old Man of the Sea, the shape-shifting sea god, to learn where the garden of Hesperides was located. In some other variants, Hercules, either at the start or at the end of his task, meets Antaeus, who was invincible as long as he touched his mother, Gaia, the earth. Hercules killed Antaeus by holding him aloft and crushing him in a bear hug. Hercules finally made his way to the garden of Hesperides, where he encountered Atlas holding up the heavens on his shoulders. Hercules persuaded Atlas to get the 3 golden apples for him by offering to hold the heavens in his place for a little while. Atlas could get the apples because in this version, he was the father of otherwise related to the Hesperides. When Atlas returned, he decided that he did not want to take the heavens back and instead offered to deliver the apples himself. But Hercules tricked him by agreeing to remain in place of Atlas on the condition that Atlas relieve him temporarily while Hercules adjusted his cloak. Atlas agreed, but Hercules renegade and walked away with the apples. According to an alternate version, Hercules slew Landon, the dragon who guarded the apples, instead. Eurystheus was furious that Hercules had accomplished something that Eurystheus thought could never be possible. The 12th and final labor was to capture Cerberus, the multi-headed dog that was the guardian of the gates of the underworld. To prepare for his descent into the underworld, Hercules went to Eleusis to be initiated in the Eleusinian mysteries. He entered the underworld, and Hermes and Athena were his guides. Hercules found Hades and asked permission to bring Cerberus to the surface, which Hades agreed if Hercules could subdue the beast without using weapons. Hercules overpowered Cerberus with his bare hands and slung the beast over his back. He carried Cerberus out of the underworld through a cavern entrance in the Peloponnese and brought it to Eurystheus, who again fled into his Pythos. Eurystheus begged Hercules to return Cerberus to the underworld, offering in return to release him from any other further labors when Cerberus disappeared back to his master. After completing the 12 labors, one tradition says that Hercules joined Jason and the Argonauts in their quest for Golden Fleece. However, Herodotus disputed this and denied that Hercules ever sailed with the Argonauts. According to a separate tradition, Hercules accompanied the Argonauts but did not travel to them as far as Colchis. So these were the labors of Hercules that he had to face for succumbing to his madness and killing his own wife and children. Watch the first video if you have not seen to see what the other labors were. And if you want, you can watch my other videos on other topics as well. Hit the like and subscribe button as well.